If you're looking ahead to some holiday entertaining, you might be thinking of oyster or a seafood feast, but if you are like our associate producer Mario Carlucci, you might be hesitant about shucking oysters in front of friends and family. See, Mario's hosting a dinner party on the weekend and did not feel qualified to do the shucking. So, for D's for dinner this week, he went to Pelican Seafood Market and Grill to get some tips from executive chef Ben Baird.
Ben, you've had a busy fall, and it was a busy summer. But tell me a little bit about all these activities, these events that you've been putting on over the past little while.
Well, we just wrapped up the PEI Shellfish Festival, where we showcased every product that we had that we source from the island, all our oysters, shellfish, any fresh caught fish that comes from the island. It was in conjunction with a festival that they do there. It ran for a month. We ran a few oyster specials, all kinds of lovely dishes. It was a really busy time in the restaurant. People seem to flock out here. I feel like Ottawa is like a commuter hub to Prince Edward Island now. Everybody I know seems to flock there in the summer for week vacations, and I'm sure that's something that's just going to grow and grow as we develop a relationship with them.
Now, you've been teaching as well, CA Parody, just up the street, doing a lot of events there. Tell me about what your clients get out of that.
Well, a little history. We started School of Fish pre-pandemic in our kitchen at Pelican Seafood Market and Grill, but with COVID that got shut down March 2020, and we kind of hit pause on it, and we relaunched it early this fall with 2 classes. It was called Oysters 101. We ran them back-to-back weeks. They were sold out within minutes of posting them. Basically, it was an introduction to oysters. I brought one of our most knowledgeable fishmongers along who talked about different varieties of oysters. We shucked 300, 400 oysters with these people. We baked oysters. It was all things shellfish. It was great feedback. People really loved the classes, and we'll be launching some more classes for the new year. Hopefully we'll have some dates figured out by November, December. They'll make great Christmas presents. So that's been a lot of fun with people. It keeps me busy for sure.
Segues nicely into what we're going to be doing in your kitchen in a little bit.
Yep.
I'm hoping to host some people and have a nice dinner party with a seafood focus, an oyster focus. And I've always been nervous about doing this for guests. In the context of a dinner party and entertaining people, timing and getting everything right, I'm a little nervous about that when it comes to oysters. Can you guide me along in that process?
Absolutely. I'm going to make you look like a hero. We'll bake some oysters, simplest preparation. I'll teach you how to shuck some oysters, how to throw them on a platter so they look really nice, other things you can put on there to wow people away. Absolutely. And if you forget what I tell you, you can go to our website and we have some lovely little videos on how to shuck an oyster, all kinds of videos on there you should check out. It'll refresh your memory if you forget what I tell you this morning.
Yeah, let's go.
Perfect. Mila, you're done with the ovens? Okay. No, that's cool. It's still hot.
All right, got the ovens going.
So, Mario, for your weekend party this weekend, this is how you're going to bake some oysters. In this bowl here, I have some fresh breadcrumbs. So basically, take a bun, any kind of leftover bread that's still pretty fresh, not stale. In the food processor, blitz, 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 kind of turn powdery, break it up into little chunky pieces. It's called a fresh breadcrumb. Then you're going to need to get some crispy bacon. Couple strips, 3 or 4. This is going to do about 8 oysters, so I don't know how many people you got coming, but I'll give you the recipe later and you can do the math. So this is 2 strips of bacon, cooked crispy in the oven, chopped up real fine. I have about 2 tablespoons of Parmesan grated. I have 2 tablespoons of chopped parsley, 2 tablespoons of chopped chive, the juice of a quarter of a lemon, and about 2 tablespoons of a nice olive oil. And a little bit of garlic. I use some roasted garlic. I'll give you a few to take home so you can make it easy. So, that's the stuffing. Just going to set it aside. Here I pre-shucked these because I knew you were coming over. This is 8 oysters on the half shell. I'm going to show you how to pop them open in a minute, but just so we can get these in the oven, and I'll show you how fast this is going to be. I have the oysters sitting on some kosher salt that I mix with a bit of water to make a paste. It just kind of holds them in the oven while they bake really well, keeps the liquor from draining out of the oyster. So we're just going to take our stuffing. It's going to be a good heaping tablespoon on top of each oyster. You don't need to pack it down. You just kind of want to cover the oyster. This is going to help steam the oyster underneath the topping. The topping's going to suck up all that lovely oyster juice, and it's going to kind of season it. So we're just going to cover our 8 oysters. And then I got an oven preheating to 375 degrees. We're gonna and you can do this in the afternoon. Like you can take these oysters, you can top them, fire them back in the fridge, so that when your guests show up, you're not busy kind of getting these ready. You can pull them out and put these in the oven. They're gonna make the house smell so good. So they're gonna show up and they're gonna be salivating by the time you pull these out of the oven. So they're topped. Just gonna put them in the oven here. Middle rack, preheating 375 degree oven. Set the timer for 10 minutes. And we'll come back to those in a few minutes.
Can you give me some tips on how to shuck properly?
Well, let's walk over to the oyster station. I got some oysters set up for us, and I'll show you how to shuck an oyster. Follow me. Yeah. Start with some crushed ice. Nice little bed. These are raspberry point oysters. So the first thing when you get your oysters home, give them a little rinse under some cold water. Don't let them sit in the water. Cold water, toss in a colander, shake them around a little bit, run them under the tap. You just want to get all the sand out of the outside, clean them up a little bit. So, the anatomy of an oyster. We have the top, we have the cup, which is the bottom, and then we have the hinge, which is the top of the teardrop. So to get the oyster open, we need to get our shucker just wedged inside the hinge, and it doesn't take a lot of force. It's more about proper position of the knife and then a good twist, and it just kind of pops the shell open. Then I take my shucker, and there's an abductor muscle that runs between the top shell and the bottom shell. I need to free the abductor muscle from the top shell, remove the top shell, and then it's just simply scrape the bottom abductor off the shell, free the oyster. As you're plating your oysters, kind of start on the outside, bring it tight up to the rim, then you take your next oyster, knife in, quick pop, scrape the top, scrape the bottom. And again, we're going to plate it, we're going to put it close to the edge. I almost want them overlapping, so the tray's really going to look full when it's done.
Nice.
So, let's get you shucking.
Oh dear, okay, thank you.
You want me to hold the microphone for you?
Okay.
Switch roles?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so there's the cup, there's the flat right on top.
There's the hinge.
I noticed it took you about 2 twists.
Let me stop you right there.
Yes.
Let's
put
it over here. We want to protect that hand with a bit of the rag.
Thank you.
Get your knife right in the hinge. I'd come at it from this side, right directly into the point.
Okay, that's fitting in nicely.
Yeah, snug it in. Give it a twist.
Twist 1.
Yeah.
Twist 2.
Oh, there you see it's going to go.
3.
There you go. You popped it.
Okay.
Love it.
Popped. Now I'm
scraping the abductor.
Scraping off. And again, I want to protect my hands.
Yeah, they're sharp little shuckers. Oh, there you go. Oh, that's beautiful. Nice work.
Almost, right?
Yeah, you're like a pro. So my recommendation to you is before your guests show up, have your baked oysters ready to go. Maybe you pre-shuck 10, 15 oysters. But I find it's pretty fun to stand there and shuck and talk. Yeah. But you have to warn people during your conversation when you start, be like, listen, I cannot be too distracted, so I'm not ignoring you.
I'm listening.
I'm just trying not to cut myself.
Okay.
Because the party's over if I got to go to the hospital.
Right. Wow. This has become really easy all of a sudden.
There you go. Yeah, so let's get some shrimp and some smoked salmon on there. Then we'll go sit down and eat them.
All right. Thank you, sir. Hey, we're in our cozy little booth here. And what an amazing little spread you've made for us here, Ben. And that didn't take you very long at all. You've got a lot of stuff pre-prepared. We've shucked the oysters. Can you tell me a little bit about what we're seeing here?
We have some fresh oysters here. We have some Lucky Lime oysters. We have some Raspberry Point oysters. Pick them up fresh in the store. You now know how to shuck an oyster like a pro. This is some of our in-house jerked salmon. You got to put that in your mouth. This stuff is just the best. We make so much of this stuff. Easiest thing to drop on the platter. We have some chilled cocktail shrimp here. We steam these bad boys 2-3 times a day, so they're always fresh on the counter. By the pound, by the piece. My 4-year-old daughter loves these. This is her lunch 3 days a week. Just 6 shrimp. Not even the cocktail sauce. And then, your simple garnishes, bottle of Tabasco, any kind of hot sauce you have around the house. Really nice on oysters. Also, if you have a little bit of scotch, a little scotch on an oyster is a nice one.
Okay.
This is our in-house cocktail sauce. Oh, and here's our baked oysters. Thank you, Jacob.
Wow. Do you want a rag underneath it?
Maybe that's good. It does not burn the table. Thank you, sir. Smell good. So that's what you pull out of the oven when your guests show up.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, man, this guy knows what he's doing. And that was so easy to make.
And Like, look at that. This is beautiful, too.
Aren't they? Yeah. So you're cooking them till they're just a little golden brown on the top, but you're going to smell it. You smell the bacon. You smell all that good stuff coming out of there. So just back here, fresh lemon is a classic with oysters, and it really fills the whole. So when you put in the platter together, a couple lemons fill the whole. This is a little bit of red wine mignonette. We're going to give you a couple of those free when you buy your oysters, as with the citrus horseradish. Then a little bit of zing. The mignonette's kind of a sauce that's designed to cut through the salinity. So if you have anyone who's like, I'm hesitant to have an oyster, I've never had an oyster, the mignonette's a really good one to help them get the first oyster down.
Okay.
The vinegar and the shallot kind of cuts through the saltiness of the oyster and just it makes it slide down. Delicious stuff. Maybe it's time to try a baked one now.
Oh,
They probably cooled off enough that you can...
just pick one up.
Yep.
I just grabbed the biggest one. My apologies
There's a fork right there if you want.
I've had a lot of seafood in my life. I'm not sure I've ever had anything so amazing in one bite. Do you get that a lot? Like, this is the best thing I've ever tried?
Oh, when we do our School of Fish and we pull out baked oysters, I mean, the first thing everybody comments on is, oh my god, that smells so good. And then they eat them and they're like, I've never had oysters so good.
Break down the flavors that I'm tasting here.
So, well, the bread is kind of the medium for the flavors. So we flavored the bread with bacon, with parmesan, with chive, with roasted garlic, parsley, and then that bread's going to suck up all the juices from the oyster, and that really adds some good good saltiness and some good flavor into the bread. And then the baking process also changes the texture of the oyster. You might notice it's not as it's not slimy. It has a little more chew to it. Like, you don't mind chewing on that oyster. It's like some people just like to swallow oysters. They don't like to chew. I like to chew a raw oyster. I like getting that flavor of it.
Yeah.
But it's a different kind of chew with a baked oyster. And I find that really kind of changes the flavor profile quite a bit.
I would say if you haven't tried an oyster before, start with the baked one, so you get a real appreciation of all the flavors that can come out of it, and then you can go to the raw as well, and just kind of develop your love of it. Wow, dude!
I mean, and honestly, you're making dinner for these people this weekend.
Yeah.
Most people will fill up with this, and this is going to impress them. The raw, the baked, the shrimp. I mean, that could be your whole dinner party. And how easy was that?
Yeah.
That's why. I mean, I've given you a copy of the recipe. I think this is a great one for people to take home and play with. And that recipe you can tweak. If you have a dairy intolerance, you can leave the cheese out. You can use gluten-free bread. If you don't eat pork, you can leave the bacon out. Absolutely no problem at all. So it's really one that you could switch the bacon for anchovy. I mean, there's so many different options you can make with this dish.
Fantastic. Thanks again.
My pleasure.
Executive Chef Ben Bayard over at Pelican Seafood Market and Grill on Bank Street. And on this edition of D's for Dinner, he's walking Mario Carlucci through the niceties of hosting an oyster feast. You can find out more about seafood at Pelican by visiting their website, pelicanseafood.ca. And Pelican is located at 1500 Bank Street.